Thomas the Tank Engine Friends, the Railway Series by the Rev. W. Audrey. Today's story is called Freight Cars. Sir Handel and Peter Sam had been working hard while Skarloey was away. The owner gave them buffers and even bought a diesel named Rusty, but Sir Handel grumbled continually. One day, Gordon saw him shunting and laughed. "My controller makes me shunt," said Sir Handel sheepishly, "and take freight cars to the quarries too. I'm highly sprung, and I suffer dreadfully." "Our controllers don't understand our feelings," sympathized Gordon. "Now, if you were ill," he winked, "you couldn't go, could you?" "Good idea," said Sir Handel. "I'll try it." "I don't feel well," he groaned next morning. There wasn't time to examine him then, so some of his cars were coupled behind Peter Sam's coaches, and Rusty promised to follow with the rest. "Heh," snickered Sir Handel, but no one noticed. They were all too busy. Peter Sam didn't mind the extra work. He left his coaches at the top station and trundled cheerfully through the woods. The cars chattered behind him in an agitated way, but he paid no attention. It might have been better if he had. Slate comes from quarries high up in the hills. They travel down in cars on a steep railway called an incline. Empty cars at the bottom are hitched to a rope. Loaded ones at the top are hitched to another. By their weight, loaded cars run down the incline, pulling the empty ones up. There are strong brakes in the winding house at the top to prevent loaded cars from running down too fast. The ropes are very strong too, but in spite of this, cars sometimes play dangerous tricks. Peter Sam never bumped cars unless they misbehave. Sir Handel bumped them even if they were good, so they didn't like him and played tricks whenever they could. Peter Sam pushed the empty freight cars to a siding where his fireman hitched them to the rope. Then, on another siding, he pulled back some loaded freight cars. With these in front of him, he stood waiting. More loaded cars stood at the top of the incline, ready to come down. They couldn't see Peter Sam. They thought he was Sir Handel and wanted him to pay him back. They began to move. "Faster, faster," they grumbled. They reached halfway, gathering speed. "Scrank him," they yelled. "No, no," wailed the empty cars. It's Peter Sam. But it was no use. The loaded cars were straining at the rope. They broke it with a crack. "Hurrah! Hurrah!" they roared, hurtling down the hill. Peter Sam heard them. He shut his eyes. His driver and fireman crouched in his cab. The crash jerked him violently backwards. "Ouch!" he shivered. "I didn't expect a cold bath." The water poured from a channel, smashing by flying slates. He was soaked from funnel to cab. "Peep, peep," he spluttered, and was glad when he heard Rusty's answering, "Beep, beep." "Bust my buffers," exclaimed Rusty. "What a mess." "Never mind, Peter Sam. We'll get you out." He soon pulled him away from the water and the freight cars. Peter Sam felt battered. His funnel was cracked and his spoiler dented, but he was glad his driver and fireman were all right. He thanked Rusty and limped slowly home. Rusty stayed to help clear the wreckage. "I'm sorry about your accident, Peter Sam," said Sir Handel. "I always stand well back. Cars don't like me, you see. Why didn't you warn me?" "I didn't think." "You never do," said a stern voice. "You can start now while you're doing Peter Sam's work as well as your own. That'll teach you to pretend you're ill." Sir Handel did start thinking. He thought about controllers, and he thought about Gordon. He wanted to give Gordon a piece of his mind.